Southwest of Boston lie the mostly intact ruins of a school. In the over 200 years since the world ended, the school has filled with feral ghouls. While this is far from unheard of in the wasteland, the fact that many of the ghouls are bright pink is. I'm the Resolute Cartographer, and this is the story of Suffolk County Charter School. A couple of short notes before we get going here. First, I did a tiny amount of research on charter schools in real-world Massachusetts. While some charter schools are private, in Massachusetts they are all public, tuition-free, and funded via state and local districts. They operate independently of local districts under a charter granted via the State Board of Education. They can't pick and choose students, and if there are more applicants than spots, they admit based on a lottery system. While this is how they operate in the real world in the 2020s, I'm going to assume that this is, for the most part, how charter schools operate in the Fallout universe in the 2070s. However, it appears that the school was short on funds, so it's possible that the funding from the state and local districts in the Fallout universe was not sufficient. Second, Suffolk County is a massive county that covers a lot of the Boston area. From the location of the schools south of Hyde Park and west of Quincy, both of which can be found in-game and in the real world, I believe that the school would lie in Reedville at the southern tip of Suffolk County. That being said, let's get started. In the fall of 2077, Suffolk County Charter School began participation in the Nutritional Alternative PASTE program. Starting on Monday, October 18, 2077, under the auspices of the program, all meals served in the school cafeteria were replaced with a pink paste. The paste, said to be flavorless, was not terribly well received, which led parents to pack lunches for their students. Unfortunately, the school then threw those lunches out under the orders of Dr. Jerry Gibson, the representative from the NAPP program. In a message he sent to Principal Jackie Hudson, he made it clear that the NAPP program would be sending people to check on the school, and if she didn't prevent outside food from getting in, they would pull their funding. Even the Glee Club's bake sale was a bake sale in name only. No food other than the paste was allowed on the premises, and as such the sale was for colored cups from which to consume the paste. While at least one teacher viewed the whole experience as inhumane and demoralizing, after all, who wants to eat nothing but flavorless slop every time they go to work? Their biggest concern was the behavioral changes they saw in their students. They were more restless and tended towards misbehavior. Beyond the behavioral issues, the students seemed to be taking on the color of the paste, turning pink. In response to these concerns, Principal Hudson called any perceived side effects psychosomatic, and further accused those who complained about said side effects of mistrusting the government. Not only was the program saving the school money and not having to buy food, and providing additional funding to the school, it was helping the country in the long term. She didn't bother to explain how it was helping the country, and luckily for her, she didn't have to. The Saturday after the program began, the world came to an end. On the morning of Saturday, October 23, 2077, the bombs rained down across the world. The timing of the event means that likely no students were in the school at the time. As the survivors of the bombs sought shelter and sustenance in the radioactive ruins of society, it appears that some of them, potentially even some former students, sought refuge in the school. These new residents of the facility began to eat the pink paste. In the end, it appears that the initial concerns about it dyeing the consumers pink were genuine. Eventually, the now pink survivors ghoulified in the radiation, and there they remained when the sole survivor of Vault 111 arrived in 2287. There are many reasons why the sole survivor may have come to the Suffolk County Charter School. Were they aligned with the Brotherhood of Steel? They might have come for lost technology, to guide a squire, or to eliminate ghouls. As the general of the Minutemen, they may have come to the school to kill ghouls on the behalf of a settlement. As a servant of the Institute, they may have also come to kill feral ghouls, and if they were members of the Railroad, they may have come seeking data on Randolph Safehouse. Aside from working for the factions, they may have come to scavenge or just to explore. However, there's a chance that the sole survivor stumbled across a note that led them there. Titled Intervention Note, this note can potentially be found at a handful of locations across the Commonwealth, and reading it can add the location of the school to the map. While at the school, the sole survivor can explore the ruins, scavenging supplies, killing pink feral ghouls, and potentially eating some pink goo that remains within the ruins. This goo has no effect on the sole survivor's color or behavior, but if they really want more, they can turn in unreturned library books and get more paste from their machine in the library. That pretty much covers the narrative, but I have some notes on the topic. First, I think I need to acknowledge the likely origin for the pink goo in the story here. Real-world pink slime, or as the beef industry calls it, lean, finely textured beef. For those of you who don't remember because it's a 13-year-old story, or because you were too young at the time, pink slime was a big story back in 2012, 3 years prior to the release of Fallout 4. The story of pink slime is actually a bit of a multi-point story, but I'll try to simplify it. Let's start with what it is. When it comes to beef, there are two types of fat. the fat you want and the fat you cut. Marbling is the fat you want. It's the intramuscular fat that provides additional flavor and succulence to the meat as it cooks. The more of it there is, generally speaking, the higher the grade of beef. There are other factors like the age of the cow at slaughter, but that's not important for the purposes of this. The fat you cut is the white cap and seams between the muscles. This fat, once cut away, is referred to as trimmings. And while trimmings are mostly fat, there is some meat trapped within. Historically, this trapped meat was usually wasted as it wasn't financially viable to extract it. That changed in 1990 when the USDA approved a process using heat and centrifuges that made it profitable to recover. In the mid-1990s, additional processes were developed to sterilize the meat against the risk of bacterial contamination. Controversially, one of these processes involved treating the product with a puff of ammonia gas. These sterilizing procedures were approved by the USDA in 2001. Later alternatives to this process involved treating the material with citric or lactic acid. Regardless of the sterilizer, the process is illegal in the EU, while the use of ammonia gas as the sterilizer is illegal in Canada. The end product, what the industry calls lean, finely textured beef, is then added to standard ground beef for sale. Though it had been a legal part of the American beef industry since the 90s, it only became widely known to the general public in March 2012. At the time, the media referred to it as pink slime, and it was generally shown to be one of the examples of how industrialized the food industry has become. The reporting included figures such as pink slime being in 70% of beef sold, including school lunches. In the end, the company responsible for lean, finely textured beef sued the media they believed responsible for the public backlash, noting many times they called their reporting misleading and defamatory, eventually leading to a settlement. To be candid about my own life, at the time the story launched, I viewed the reporting as sensationalist. I've since changed my views. I'm by no means an expert in the field, but I've come to trust corporations less and less over time. In researching this, I learned that there were objections within the USDA to certifying the process. These objections weren't even necessarily safety related, but because the recovered product included connective tissue which doesn't have the same nutritional value as pure muscle. Not only this, but the settlement of the lawsuit could likely be laid to the fact that disparaging the beef industry could have permitted tripling the damages sought, meaning that basically the slightest chance of losing the lawsuit wasn't worth the risk. Since 2018, lean, finely textured beef is no longer classified as an additive and is instead simply called ground beef. As lean, finely textured beef is viewed as a sign of the over-industrialization of food, it calls another item to mind. In 1972, a bunch of parents brought their kids to the emergency room. Their reason? Their kids' feces had turned pink. It turned out that they had all eaten Frankenberry cereal and the artificial dye within was indigestible. The kids turned out okay and they removed the dye going forward, but as a highly processed food that turned stuff pink, I see it as potentially being a slight reference to the pink goo in the Suffolk Country Charter School. While this covers a couple potential sources for the pink slime's appearance in Fallout 4, when it comes to the behavioral changes we see in the students, I believe we can look to other pieces of media to see potential inspiration. X-Files Season 2 Episode 10, titled Red Museum, details a town in which the youth have become violent due to contaminated beef entering the food supply. If the pink goo is a reference to lean, finely textured beef, then this would provide a point of connection to this episode of the X-Files. Another potential cultural reference suggested by the Fallout Wiki is the 1985 horror movie The Stuff, but I think that's a stretch. Specifically, the wiki uses the fact that Henry Smith, the English teacher, uses the term the stuff in the complaint letter he was drafting in the sentence, "Also, I could almost swear everyone seems a little bit pinker after a week of eating this stuff." If stuff were capitalized, I could see this being an illusion, but in this case, I believe the phrase is simple circumlocution, a way to refer to a thing without using the words themselves. The eponymous material in The Stuff is a sweet, white, and addictive material that oozes out of the floor of a quarry and is sold as a dessert. It's a sentient alien organism that can move on its own and turns people into zombies. The pink goo in the Suffolk Country Charter School is said to be a flavorless meal replacement that is produced in the kitchen of the school. It turns kids pink and aggressive. The only piece of lore that points in the direction of the stuff is a note entitled Intervention Note, in which it becomes clear that a raider named Hank took some of the paste from the school and has seemingly become addicted to it. He eats it before raids and becomes unhinged during these events. The part of the note that points towards the stuff is the author writing to Hank saying, "I know the stuff tastes great, but is it really worth all this?" This flies in the face of the other pieces of lore, specifically Henry Smith noting that the paste is flavorless and the principal herself noting that people will get used to the flavor of the paste. From this, I believe that potentially the paste develops a flavor as it ages. Regardless, I believe that Hank is using the paste for its aggression-increasing properties as a weak form of jet. Second, this was only the first time we've seen pink goo make an appearance in the Fallout universe. We also see this at the Enclave Site J base in Appalachia in Fallout 76. At the very least, the pink slime at the charter school and the pink slime in the bunker share a model. This food is represented as a material that the bunker staff have to consume after unrecycled food ran out. For whatever reason, the food in the bunker does not seem to have the same effect of coloring the skin or increasing aggression, so it's possible they just look similar. In Appalachia, we find a list of Department of Agriculture programs, including the Budding Patriots Initiative, described as a national nutrition initiative to prepare the next generation for national service through enhanced nutrition. Though not shown to be connected in-game, I wouldn't be surprised if the National Alternative Paste program at the Suffolk County Charter School was a part of that initiative. Third, it appears that stranger danger was a concept in the Fallout universe as well. In Principal Hudson's morning announcement on Wednesday, October 20th, 2077, she notes that Jangles the Moon Monkey will be at an assembly the following day to teach them about the dangers of strangers. As a side note, it appears that his appearance was possible due to the school's participation in the National Alternative Paste program. I have to wonder what exactly this assembly would have entailed and why it would be Jangles the Moon Monkey instead of Captain Cosmos, but that's besides the point. I think that's enough on the notes, so let's close things out. The Suffolk County Charter School gives us a view into how even innocent school children were fair game for crazy experiments of governments and corporations in the Fallout universe. Something which, unfortunately, is mirrored in the real world from time to time too. Alright, I think that'll do it for this video. Follow me on X for lore video announcements at Gaming with Maps. My Discord is open to the public, there's a link in the channel's banner. I stream every Friday evening on YouTube, come check it out if you're interested. If you appreciate what I do here and you want to support the channel financially, you can become a member on YouTube or a patron with Patreon. I want to thank my channel members and patrons Mesothelioma, 76 of Texas, Dark Malcontent, Real76, Samsung Smart Fridge, Night Spearhead, Electric Head, Hero Cunning, Lace Cake, Osborne and Bread 73, Clay, Prince Julius, and Doc Vanguard Voyager for their support. I also want to thank those of you who've made super chats and super thanks as well. I also want to specifically thank Dark Malcontent for helping with this video's script. This has been the Irresolute Cartographer. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again next time.